Matty Fresh on the track up estate. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Zillin in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6. In the blue kicks, watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball, Penn State football podcast brought to you by Big Banter Sports. Well, Penn State defeated Rutgers 27-6, and the game was about as boring as Nate and I predicted it would be. But there were some interesting storylines as quarterback Drew Aller was injured during the game and did not return, and backup Bo Prabila threw one pass in relief. The game was kind of out of reach at that point with Penn State up by 14, but it's still interesting to see them just run the ball and kind of look like Navy. It was not the best of showings, I guess, offensively, but they got the job done. And we come to the season finale against Michigan State, which is actually going to be a Friday night game on NBC at Ford Field in Detroit. So neutral site in a dome, which is notable because the last couple of times Penn State has gone to Michigan State, the weather has been all kinds of wacky with monsoons, lightning delays, and snowstorms. So this game being played indoors is quite notable. But I am joined by Spartan Dog from the Bacon Wire podcast, the Michigan State podcast for Big Banter. So Spartan Dog, how you doing today?
Alec, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
You got it. So, before we get started, just let people know where they could find your show and kind of what you guys are about.
Yeah, so we cover MSU football and basketball here on Big Banter. You can find us at Bacon Wire. I live tweet every game because I'm a sicko. You can follow me at Spartan Dog 97. I'm not sure what the overlap is for Penn State Lions fans, but I'm also very active during Lions games. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun. Thursday's gonna be weird because the Lions and MSU basketball are playing. There's high potential for me to get disowned this thing. So it's just you beat the Packers. Don't look like idiots against Arizona. And let's keep the machine moving.
So both your football teams are playing in the same place on back-to-back days. I doubt that's happened before.
No, and they played the high school.
Right.
They play the high school championships there, and my high school alma mater is playing on Saturday night.
Really? Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, I should have just showed up Thursday and bring a tent and just stay there.
That's actually really cool. But kind of getting into this game now, Michigan State, obviously a crazy season with the firing of Mel Tucker and everything that's gone on there. I know at 4-7, obviously the vibes will not be exactly high, but what has kind of the feeling been around the program since Tucker's dismissal back in, middle September?
Yeah, I think kind of looking back at it with hindsight, this season ended when that USA Today story published. It was never going to be any more successful than this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think at this point, we're ready to move on from the staff. We're ready for a culture reset. We're just ready to kind of get everything back out in front of us and not have to do this existential dread of who is the next coach going to be? How is the board of trustees going to mess this up? What's going to happen? Right. We just kind of need to get to that announcement press conference. We just kind of need to expel these demons because it's been a long season, man. I'll tell you what, It hasn't been fun.
Yeah. So kind of getting into the roster itself now and who's on the field. What is the quarterback situation? Because I know Noah Kim started the year, but Caitlin Hauser has kind of taken over now. I noticed with playing in 10 games compared to Kim's 5. I see that as many as 6 players have thrown a pass for Michigan State this year. Now I see 3 of those probably from the trick play variety, but is it Hauser full time now? It's all him, right?
Yeah, it is Hauser full time.
Okay.
Kim did start the season. He won the job out of camp. Probably a mistake, but now that we know what was going on at the time, I don't think it was. I think that's probably why Noah Kim got the start. Honestly, there is a true freshman, Sam Levitt, on the roster. He exhausted his 4 games. I tend to think that was massive mismanagement by this interim staff. Because they used him in 2 games in like blowout cleanup duty. He only really got a game and a half of like meaningful snaps, and I think if you're gonna try to showcase what this quarterback has for the future for the next staff, I really think that was a massive mismanagement. But yeah, it's Katin Hauser's show now.
Gotcha. So obviously, I know Penn State has had this problem where some quarterbacks have a favorite target first, then the next guy comes in, and that's not his guy. He starts going to someone else. So for Hauser, who has been his go-to guys in the passing game since he's taken over?
When he's been available, it's been Malik Carr. I mean,
Okay.
Malik Carr he's a freak. I mean, this is a guy. I think a lot of the fan base is kind of frustrated with him because he's kind of a guy who, if you look at it from outside the program looking in, right, he seems to lack internal motivation. It seems like sometimes, but when he's locked in and he wants to be going, he's unstoppable. I mean, he looks like the biggest 5th grader. He looks like the big 5th grader playing schoolyard football. I would know that because I was the big 5th grader playing schoolyard football. So, I mean, he's just like, you can't tackle him. Everyone bounces off of him. It's insane.
Yeah, I am interested to see how Penn State does against him. Obviously, Cade Stover hit a couple big plays against Penn State, back in the Ohio State game. But other than that, tight ends have not done a lot of damage against this Penn State team this year. So I'm interested to see, because obviously Carr is one of the more talented ones they'll face this year, probably behind Stover. So that will be a good matchup, I think, for them. So that is notable that he has kind of become his go-to guy, because Penn State really hasn't been tested too much via tight end this year. Yeah,
no, for sure. I mean, outside of Carr, they really like to spread it around. Trey Mosley's been hurt. It doesn't sound like he's going to go. Katin Hauser really likes to spread it around. He'll throw it out of the backfield. There's definitely been a variation of targets, but it's mostly concentrated on Malik Carr.
Yeah, so I know the run game pretty much it just looks like it's Nate Carter and really no one else. 178 attempts. The next closest for a running back, I think, is 25. So he's like workhorse. I don't want to say he's Kenneth Walker, but kind of, that kind of workload is what he's getting at this point.
Yeah, and another big storyline going into this game is like MSU only brought 45 scholarship players to Bloomington last weekend.
Oh wow!
So all those guys are going to be, who knows what the availability is going to be, like who's going to be able to dress where. Yeah, but when Nathan Carter's healthy, he's the every down kind of get you those tough yards kind of back that Michigan State has kind of been known from Kenneth Walker, Jeremy Langford, Madre London, all the way through. So he's definitely the next in that lineage.
How is Hauser's scrambling ability? Because Penn State has a tendency on 3rd and longs to forget about the quarterback if the blitz does not get home. And JJ McCarthy got them on a couple designed runs on 3rd and longs a couple weeks ago. And then Gavin Wimsatt for Rutgers really Rutgers did a really good job on Penn State on 3rd and long, and then did nothing else the rest of the game. But it has been the one major weak point, I'd say, with Manny Diaz's defense since he's gotten to Penn State, is that when his blitz does not get to the quarterback on 3rd and long, usually bad things happen. So is Hauser the type that could make things work, or is he just kind of standing there?
He's shown flashes. I think his main instinct is to stay in the pocket, climb it. try to get. He does roll out from time to time, but he doesn't roll out to create a running lane. He rolls out to try to buy time to get the ball to a receiver. So his instinct is definitely to stay in the pocket, stay behind the line of scrimmage, and try to move the ball downfield through the air.
Right.
But he has shown flashes of being able to take off and gain a few yards on the ground.
Gotcha. So flipping sides here, Penn State, it's kind of interesting because James Franklin said earlier in the week that he expects Drew Eller to play, and then they had their it was a day early. They usually have media availability on Wednesdays, but the game being on Friday was tonight. And, some of the reporters tweeted that Aller was there, practice, blah, 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 but no one saw him throw a ball. So I don't know if, that's precaution or not, but if he doesn't play, it'll be Bo Prabula, who is pretty much they're making him a running back at this point. So what, in your opinion, what would be a bigger challenge to the Michigan State defense? Aller and Penn State's, I don't want to say ability to throw the ball because it's been ugly at times, but more of a passing attack, or would Prabula, where Penn State's running these wildcat packages and running QB draws and doing all kinds of fancy run plays, in your opinion, what would be a kind of a bigger challenge to the Michigan State defense?
Frankly, it's going to depend on availability because, the defensive line for Michigan State has been so banged up. At one point last Saturday, there was a walk-on offensive lineman playing 3 technique.
Oh, wow.
So it's been, the other thing I'm looking forward to with this new staff is a new strength and conditioning mantra in regimen, because it feels like this Mel Tucker, Harlan Barnett era has been, outside of 2021, has been marred with just like insane injuries. But yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on availability. I tend to lean Aller being able to move the ball down the field. I held a lot of Drew Aller stock in the beginning of the season.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I almost came onto the podcast wearing a barrel, like I'm an 1880 stockbroker, because it's not doing so hot.
No.
But I do think that, if Aller is able to kind of play and be at 95%, the cornerback depth for Michigan State is non-existent. So I think he'd kind of be able to pick MSU apart through the air. The running, I think, can keep it semi-contained if there's just constant pressure. But yeah, Aller being able to throw the ball is not going to be good for MSU.
Yeah, so Penn State honestly the running backs have struggled to find the explosive play this year. Has Michigan State struggled with big run plays? Are they kind of like Penn State, where they won't give up a lot of big run plays, but you can get a methodical, 3 to 4 yards on them if you need to?
Thinking back on this season, and I've blacked most of this season, to be honest, I don't really remember getting gashed. Honestly, on the ground, they've been cooked in the air, but they've been cooked in the air for the last 5 years. So that doesn't really, I'm kind of numb to that at this point. But,
right.
Yeah, I think if this is going to become a classic Big Ten game, five yards in a cloud of dust, MSU is just probably going to die a death of 1,000 cuts. So that's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun for anyone to watch. But I don't really. Again, I'm just kind of. We got Zillow listing notifications for the coaches' houses yesterday, and we all kind of started celebrating. So that's where the fan base is at. We're watching Zillow to see whose house is getting listed.
Yeah. So are you on the Urban Meyer train? I've seen that a lot on Twitter from some people, and I just wasn't sure what your guys' thoughts were on that.
I'm so sick of this discourse. And it's nothing against you, right? You have to ask it, right? Look, I need this search to be over. I need the next coach to be announced. I need to get the next staff. The next staff needs to get in here, because I can't take any more of this. It was fun to entertain in the beginning, but it's just there's one guy clanging pots from a rooftop, talking about how close it is to happening, And anyone else who knows anything, from national college football reporters down to the beat guys, saying it's not going to happen. It's ridiculous. And this search has been super tight-lipped, which I commend athletic director Alan Haller for that. It is so hard to keep coaching search news like locked down like this, especially when you have the runaway Michigan State had.
Right.
But yeah, do I want one of the best coaches in college football history to coach my team? Of course I do.
Right.
Do I think it's going to happen? No.
Mm-hmm. No, I see what you mean. But I guess you guys then are really excited to see the end of the regular season because, one, when Michigan State season is over, it's a little easier to hire a coach. But also, once you get into bowl season, a lot of these coaches on other teams then do become available and start moving jobs.
Right. And the guys we're looking at, all the finalists for the job, depending on who you ask, they're all out of their conference championship races.
Right.
So their season ends Saturday for a lot of them. And they'll be interims for the bowl game. The bowls haven't stopped anyone from moving jobs. So, I expect once the Hawaii game ends on Saturday, it's going to move pretty quickly.
Gotcha. So the line is at 21 for this game. We've been iffy. Penn State always seems to find a way to cover even when it doesn't look like they should. But what are your thoughts on a 3-touchdown line here for this game?
If you're a bettor and you're looking at this line, the question you have to ask yourself is, do you trust Penn State to put up 21 points by themselves? Because Michigan State is, I guess that's the over under. I guess it's how much do you believe in Penn State's defense?
Right.
Because, Michigan State is banged up. They've shown some propensity to move the ball. But against functioning defenses like Michigan, Ohio State, even defenses that aren't that functioning like Washington or Maryland, they have struggled to put up points. So that 21 in a dome is a matter of, okay, is Drew Aller going to play?
Right.
And can they score enough to get a 3-touchdown margin? I think is where you're going to go.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I think if Aller doesn't play, this could be a 17-7 game or something ridiculous like that. But it's definitely not out of the question, I don't think.
Kirk is going to love this game if Aller doesn't play. He is going to watch this and be in football heaven if Aller doesn't play, because it's going to be like 9-6.
Yeah, it honestly might be. But before we finish this up, I know you wanted to drop some Detroit food recommendations for any Penn State fans who might be going to the game. I do know from seeing some people on Twitter that there might be a decent contingency going. So what do you got for us there?
Yeah, so if you're going to Detroit for the game, I have to recommend Slow's Barbecue. Best barbecue in Detroit. They're the best. They have just everything is top notch, from the meat to the sauces to the cocktails. Everything's great. If you're looking to go out after the game, if you're staying the weekend in Detroit, there's a Tin Roof. I think it's a franchise bar. They have live music, outdoor stuff. That's really cool. Campus Martius, which is like the area, the Christmas stuff is up there. So if you want to see some Christmas stuff, it's along the Detroit River. Go check that out. They have like little restaurants and pop-up shops and stuff. So that's really cool. You got to go to Lafayette, Coney Island. If you're in Michigan, you got to get a Detroit Coney. You're going to hear a lot of American versus Lafayette. Lafayette is better. Don't let anyone tell you any differently. I've been there 5 times in the last 10 years, and every single time I walk in there, it's the same 6 guys working.
Really? Wow.
Level of consistency you just do not see anymore.
Yeah.
Love Lafayette. You got to get a Coney if you're in Detroit.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Big thanks again to Spartan Dog for coming on, giving us the intel on the Spartans. We will be back sometime next week to break down the regular season, kind of give our thoughts on it. But that's going to do it for this one. So we'll see you then.